We make our own fortunes and we call them fate. Our time is the most valuable resource. We never get any time back. And how you spend your time can really have a drastic effect on your life. We'll inevitably end up working for a big portion of our lives. And with that, it's super important to reflect on what you're working on and what you're working towards. And in this video, I'll be going over why I decided to leave my job. A little backstory. So my parents actually immigrated here to the US from Latin America. And this was before I was born. And me and my siblings, we grew up here. And we grew up with not that much money, to be honest. We lived most of the time paycheck to paycheck and on government assistance. I remember seeing my parents and my family work really hard to get by. At a young age, just taught me the importance of money, hard work, and more importantly, how what you're working on can have a really big impact on the outcome of that hard work. And throughout my childhood, I always had like gravitation towards technology, whether it was like a laptop computer or even like a video game console, anything really. I always liked to get my hands on it and just see what I could do with it and just play around with it. And this, along with my fascination with mathematics, I found and still find math to be pretty fun. And so all those combined made the career as a developer very appealing to me. Thus, fast forward to 2021. At the time, I'd graduated college about like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And I had to spend the time working in the accounting department of an art school. And I was looking for a shift. I wanted a job that I found more meaningful and enjoyed more. And that's when I stumbled upon software development. And I had some experience with it before, but this time around, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. Especially since I knew I had like a gravitation towards it, and once I started building out applications and like pieces of software, I was having a lot of fun. So I just kept going. And deep down, I always wanted to be a part of a team that like played around with some sort of technology and did something cool with it, like at a startup. And I began my journey as an iOS developer. And I chose iOS because we literally take our phones everywhere we go. And I feel like a lot of people undervalue that. And I believe there's still a lot more room for innovation in terms of the apps, the type of apps that we have on our phone. Back to the journey of becoming a developer though. So around the time, me and my friends we were planning on and thinking about moving to Atlanta from Miami. We had lived in Miami most of our lives, so we were looking for like a change, and Atlanta seemed like a very cool city to go. And with that in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that's a really good idea, because I know like a new environment can be a great catalyst if you want to change or do something new. And for me, I really wanted to break into the tech industry, so I was like, this is perfect. I could just go out there and see what happens. And that's basically what I did. I decided to take the leap of faith and actually move to Atlanta and spent the whole summer coding. I didn't have a job or anything. I'd moved here just to become a developer. So just spent the whole time coding, and slowly began to apply to jobs as I learned more and build out my portfolio projects. And it was quite a long process. Like I applied to like 500 jobs and there was like so much rejection, like so much. And a lot of them don't even respond to you, but that's just how it is, especially when you're trying to break into the industry, right? Because even like if you're fresh out of college, like they're asking for like what, 3 years experience for an entry-level role. Like, how am I supposed to get the experience if it's an entry-level role? But I actually ended up landing a few interviews. My most notable one was with Audible. I went through their interview stages and I actually made it to the final round. It was a virtual on-site. It's like a full day of interviews, like 4 or 5. And that was the biggest challenge, and pretty scary, nerve-wracking. I did my best to prepare, and I did fairly well. Like I did super good on the technical side. Like I answered all the technical stuff. My behavioral though wasn't as great. They asked like a few questions about working with teams, and at the time, like I hadn't worked, well, at least in terms of programming, I hadn't programmed with the team. It was mostly by myself. So I just stumbled a little bit there, and I ended up not getting the offer, which I fumbled the bag, but it was all right. And after that, I kept learning, applying, and making sure I was better prepared for the next time I had interviews. And by this time, I was getting low on funds. I probably had like a month left because I had saved up to move here. But throughout, like, I got to pay rent and all that stuff. So my funds were getting low. And then one day I get a call from Pfizer. It was a recruiter who wanted me to come in for like an interview or a virtual interview. And this time around, I was going to make sure to be on my A game. So I made sure to study the technical side and also to practice more behavioral questions and prep for things like that to come up during the interview. And the interviews came and I did really well. Afterwards, I had to just wait and just see what they decided. And about like a week or two later, I got a call back actually extending the offer. And then I was like super excited to like figure out when I was going to start. And I found out when my start was, and I was reaching out to my manager before, like, is there anything I need to know? Is there something you need from me? But he didn't say much. He just said brush up on your skills, I guess. He said something like that. And when the job started, I felt prepared, but I was at the same time, I was like, what's gonna happen? Because I've never been in the tech industry, so I wasn't sure. And once it started, it wasn't that scary. And after that, it was all smooth. And throughout this whole time, I was making sure, I kept learning as much as I could, because I wanted to make sure, like, when they called on me to fix a bug or deliver a feature or something like that, like they gave me a task, I'd be able to deliver. So the job was going well, and I was spending a lot of my free time just learning as much as I could. And then about like 2 months into the job, my bubble burst. I took a step back and I realized, I had spent all this time like focused on learning and coding that I didn't really reflect upon the job. And I realized like, oh, this is like a 9-to-5 job. And what I mean by that is like the job kind of like purpose and meaning. A lot of the tasks were like monotonous and repetitive. And to be honest, I'd prefer like to work hard and long hours, right? But it's like, what's the purpose and what's the outcome of that? That's something that I think about when it comes to that. And I'm pretty sure it really depends on where you're working and like the type of company. Like a startup, very different. And I'm at a point in my life where I like to move with purpose and at the same time work on like challenging and interesting problems. And with that frame of thinking, I realized, oh, long-term wise, I probably won't be at the job that long. And not that there was anything bad with it. It just wasn't aligned or isn't aligned with how I want to live my life. And it wasn't aligned with the reason I became a developer. I really wanted to work on cool, interesting problems. And at the same time, you get paid and maybe even make something impactful or beneficial to somebody. After this realization, though, I kept going to work, and I started working more on my side projects at the time. I launched like my YouTube and a whole bunch of other things like a clothing line. And yeah, just spending my free time either learning or working on something I enjoyed. I wasn't thinking too much like in terms of the outcome of those projects. I was more of like experimenting, seeing what I liked and didn't like. I knew for like the YouTube though, like this is something that I really wanted to build, and I'm still focused on building. And I continued to work on all these projects throughout the whole time, and inevitably leads to me working a lot. I never tracked how much, like you hear people say like, oh, I work this amount of hours a week. I don't keep track. I just try to be productive. But yeah, that inevitably led to me working a lot, and I was okay with that, to be honest. The one thing that bothered me though was like at the job, my heart wasn't fully into it. Meaning like I wasn't giving 100% of my effort or trying as hard as I wanted to, which is an interesting dilemma, right? Because there was like, my performance wasn't bad or anything. It was like easy and comfortable. And as Aristotle says, and I really like this quote, we are what we repeatedly do. I think about that often. And at the time, that's something I was thinking about, because I knew, oh, this isn't a great habit to pick up, right? Kind of half-assing things. That's not really what I want to do or practice. And my job was hybrid, so I was in the office sometimes. And when I would be in the office, sometimes I'd reflect and look at like the other people in the office, and not like nothing against them, but I was thinking like, oh, is this a life I want to live, right? Just stay here, work my whole life here. And that was something I wasn't comfortable with, not the life I want to live, at least. And I remained at the job because there were still a few things that I could learn, and I was enjoying the developer experience. I just wanted more out of it. And the tipping point for me though it was like on a Sunday, and my friends wanted to watch like a NBA playoff game. I think it was like the Lakers or something. And we hadn't hung out in a while, so I was like, let's do it. And about like halfway through, I looked at the time and I was like, oh, I gotta go. I believe I had like a video or something to edit or film, and I needed to do it on Sunday, otherwise it wouldn't get done until like the following weekend. And I wanted it done before then, so I was like, I gotta go. So I ended up like taking an Uber, and it was actually on that Uber ride back to my house where I was like, damn, I gotta quit. It wasn't immediate though. Like I didn't go the next day and do it, but I started to plan, figure out how, when I wanted to go about it. And it was a pretty scary process. I had never done anything like this, but yeah, the whole process was kind of scary. But after that though, it was like a relief, and it was more like excitement, because it was time to go to work and like start working on the next chapter. Before we talk about the next chapters, I want to just recap the main reasons I left. The first one is time. Our time is the most valuable resource. We never get any time back. And how you spend your time can really have a drastic effect on your life. A random thing I think about sometimes is like, one day we're all going to be old, right? Well, assuming you make it, assuming you survive, which more likely than not you will. thanks to like modern technology and medicine and all that. You have to look back on your life and be okay with all the decisions you made. And I feel like the worst is probably wasting your time or not doing something that you wanted to do. That was the main reason. Second reason was comfort. The job, again, it was a good job, but it was very comfortable, very easy. And like I could have easily like just been okay with it and chilled, but that's not really what I want. And I hope that's not what you want for yourself, because we are capable of a lot more than we even know. It's just overcoming that discomfort and that fear of discomfort. And the final reason is entrepreneurship. Again, throughout this process, I launched like 6 different things, and it's fun. Like I enjoy the problem solving that's involved with it. It's similar to coding in a way, but it's in a different way. Like you definitely learn a lot, and it's very challenging. And something I really want to achieve is like financial freedom for myself and for my family. So, and I see entrepreneurship as the best way to go about that, because you can achieve that with a job, of course, but I feel like doing it through entrepreneurship is more fulfilling and satisfying. All right, so what's next? So first, the YouTube will be continuing. You guys might have seen I've been pumping out more content, and that'll be continuing. The YouTube is one of my main focuses going forward, and the iOS Dev podcast as well. That's been super fun. Shout out to all the guests who've joined and come through for an episode, and the ones who are coming soon. You guys stay tuned as well for the new episodes. I'm gonna try to bring in as many interesting, cool story developers. And another thing I have is some indie projects in the works. I've been working with a few clients, putting out some projects for them, and I'm hoping to release them very soon. And definitely the Patreon, you guys check it out. I've been in there chatting with the community and planning on doing a few more live streams where you guys can come through, ask any questions, or maybe I'll do some live coding as well. And on the Patreon, you guys will have early access to the content. You get like the source code for the different projects I throw up on the channel, and you also get some exclusive discounts for courses. And yeah, that's what I'm working on next, and I'm excited. I've gone full indie. Shout out to all the indie developers out there. I'm gone indie. And if you made it this far in the video, shout out to you. I like you. I like you a lot. You're a real one. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay tuned with the journey. A lot more content coming soon. I'm kind of excited. We got a lot of stuff coming up. So make sure you guys subscribe to stay tuned to the journey. What's going to happen? Where are we going? I love y'all. Peace.